Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He is Josh Tec. Welcome to the Fast Break, the weekly podcast right here on hoopscene.com, right here on YouTube, right here back on Twitter. We got that little blue check, whatever that means on X or Twitter or whatever. So we're going to put this back up onto Twitter, where I think a lot of you guys have watched this show in the past. So if you're back watching this again on the former Bluebird, then welcome back. I can't call it X, Josh. I just can't do it. I'm not there. Fundamentally can't.
I mean, it's just maybe we'll get there eventually, but it's just Twitter and tweets and retweets and all that stuff just so ingrained in the vernacular that it's going to be really hard to shift away from that.
I agree. Well, nevertheless, the show's going to be back on that platform, whatever we want to call it here. So, Josh, you had a chance to go up to the CP3 Rising Stars camp up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. One of our favorite camps we have on the calendar each and every year. What it is, it's some of the best, almost all of the best, really, the best underclassmen, 26 and 27. So basically the sophomores and freshmen in high school basketball. It's really a good opportunity for us to get a look at the next wave of players. This is now your second year of going up there for that great camp. I've gone up there before. I love that camp. It's a chance to really see players before the narratives get started. And this is really kind of a launching pad for a lot of guys to kind of start their narratives, kind of start their stories, if you will.
Yeah.
On a real national level. So we're going to talk about really like the five or so guys that could be five-star type of prospects, meaning the best McDonald's All-American type of players. We're going to talk about your top 20, 26 guys, your top 27 guys, and then some Georgia players sprinkled in here at the very end of the show. So we'll kind of dive right into it. But this is really, to me, one of my more favorite shows of the summer because travel ball's kind of now moved past the rearview mirror. It's a month behind us, if you will. We're kind of moving into the fall. We got Scholastic coming up, and this is really kind of this great pivot point in our season to kind of think about what's ahead in the wintertime moving forward. So listen, Josh, we've known that this camp, I know for me, I always think about guys like Jalen Green and Scotty Barnes and so many other guys that have come before. Harry Giles, when he was a guy coming up. Like, so many great players have had a chapter at this great camp where this is long before all the .coms are covering them. This is long before the mixtapes and the reels and the TikToks and all the things that kind of come with the game now. This is really, I think, the most authentic place that we could see young guys before the hype really starts to grow and get real. And so to that end, this is really the first chance, I think for some of these guys. I mean, I think some of the guys you're going to talk about already have a good amount of kind of hype behind them already, but maybe the 27 guys we'll talk a little bit later. But give me like five or so guys that will be, in your opinion, guys that will kind of monitor and chart in that five-star, All-American category at the prep level that were at this camp. Because I know they were there. There were hundreds of guys there at that camp. I know there had to be some guys there that certainly fit this category.
Yeah, for sure. I think a guy that you got to look at that's already developing a name. He's already got a reputation. He's already probably being thought, like, not a lot of 2026 rankings are out there, or not a lot of 2026 rankings that are actually credible are out there. Sure. A guy that's like, being discussed among the top of the class, Jalen Montonati. He was there. I believe he was only there for part of the time. I don't recall seeing him on Sunday, but he was there on Saturday. Really smooth, 6'7", kind of combo wing guard kind of guy. Can do a little bit of everything. He put the ball on the floor, shoot it. Really smooth player. He's really impressed a lot of our national peers at like USA basketball camps and all that stuff. And he showed a little bit of that. I wouldn't say this was his greatest weekend or anything like that. But, I got to see him with Mocan at Peach Jam. He was really good then. I've gotten to see all the buzz about him from USA basketball camp. And he did have some really good moments early on in the weekend. Really smooth player, really smooth offensive player. So he's a guy that, he's pretty much a shoo-in to be a five-star or in the five-star discussion when national rankings really start to kind of materialize. Yeah. And another guy that's going to be, he wasn't there for the entire weekend. He was only there for a game maybe. But he's an obvious no-brainer in the discussion for a five-star. That's Sam Funches, 6'10"-ish big man who has got plenty of growing left to do, it looks like. Really high-level defender. Long arms, block shots. We got to see him a lot at Bama Jam. He was phenomenal then. He was one of the top performers of the entire weekend, and he was playing up in the 17U division with an Alabama Fusion team. So he's a guy to monitor. Like I said, he only played one game, so he didn't really, have that wow moment, but he's a guy that's obviously going to be a no-brainer in the discussion for five-star.
Yeah, when you see Sam Funches too, the minute you walk into the gym, you're like, oh, that's the guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the oh, yep. no brainer, wow factor. Like,
yeah, it doesn't take much to kind of go from
and
there.
like, if you look closely, he's got probably the biggest feet I've ever seen. So he's probably going to end up growing to like 7'1" or 7'2" or something. He's got like a size 20 shoe or something like that.
That's
so
insane. That's insane. I have a hard enough time finding good 14s in the stores. Paul the Six out of the DC area, we know is a prospect factory year in and year out. They've got half dozen guys in their senior class alone that are going to go on and play really good high level college basketball. It looks like they've got another guy in the 26 class coming up waiting in the wings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Smith, point guard, super athletic, super competitor on defense. He won. I don't remember. There was a big crowd and I couldn't really see who won or whatever, but I think he won the dunk contest. If not, he was like, in the top 2, running for the top 2 or something like that. Like, that's to say he was athletic and put on a show with his bounce and all of that. But his defense at the guard spot's really, really what sold me. Like, he looks like a guy that could be a high level football player with his athleticism, his kind of strong build, that stuff. I think he's really going to take a step forward at Paul the Sixth this year. They're going to be on a national stage like they always are. I'll see him at City of Palms, and I think he's going to really take a step up at the point guard spot. And I know there's a lot of talent on that team. I think he's really going to kind of make a name for himself this year. But he's a guy that's going to be in the discussion for 5-star. He could probably be a 5-star football player at some point too. He's just going to be a guy that's going to be, getting all of the national buzz. All the schools are going to be after him. He's going to be a, really sought after player in time.
You mean to tell me a guy stood out on defense at an all-star camp?
Yeah. And surprisingly, there was a couple of those. There was like a couple, if you do anything positively, defensively, or anything other than just like, all right, I got the ball, I'm going to shoot it from half court or something like that. Like, then I'll make a note of that, because it's always impressive at a camp like this.
Well, I know Chris Paul wasn't there, but if you're at the Chris Paul camp and you're a guard, you've got to play defense. And certainly that's going to bode well for you in the long term, because I know from my past and being at that camp that if you're a guard and you guard, you're going to be in a good position. So it's good to see that Jordan Smith, bought into that. All right, the next 2 guys on your list are 2 guys that I freaking love in the 2026 class. We'll go down to Florida, down to the Villages. Chris Washington, man, versatility. Did you see that again from him?
Yeah. This was kind of like another, like a step up a little bit.
Sure.
Like, he's still building. Like, he's not all the way there yet. But you just look at him, you're like, man, that guy's potential just pops off the page.
Yeah.
Last year when I saw him for the first time was at our buddy Scott Golden's camp down in Florida. And you just looked at him, at Chris Washington with the Villages, and he was like, man, this guy can get there if he, keeps developing and all that stuff. Like, he just looked raw. Like, he looked like the part. And now is like, he's adding a little bit more to his game. The fluidity is coming together. He's a little bit less awkward than he was a year ago. And if he just keeps on this trajectory, this guy's going to end up being in the 5-star discussion. This guy's going to end up being like, and he has the potential to be in like NBA discussions and all of that down the line. So it's just one of those, like, you keep watching him, you keep monitoring him, you check back in every 6 months or so to see kind of where he's at, because he just looks the part. He's looking like he's starting to play the part. Like, he looks great.
It's funny because, like, there's some guys that will always be a prospect, but never like a player. You know what I mean? And I think he's like, it used to be for me that junior to senior year summer is where we really saw it. Now I feel like it's sped up a little bit more because guys are playing so many high level events at such a young age, where now to me, it's the sophomore year is really the year where you kind of determine whether or not this guy is going to be that guy, or he's got the chops to go be that guy. And because then you see like a lot of, like you said, to me, that's where a lot of guys make that big physical change, right? Where they may have been a freshman or an 8th grader with these long arms and long legs and still trying to figure out how to run and put one foot in front of the other and catch the ball at the same time. So now you're getting all this stuff kind of coming together. And then you mix in the physical aspects of it, where he's super long and he's a interchangeable guy. I'm with you, man. I've always thought Chris Washington could be a guy that really, when it's all said and done, you're right, the ceiling for him is incredible.
Yeah, like right now, I would say like that was a good way of phrasing it. Right now, I would say that he's in between prospect and player. Like last year when I saw him for the first time, I was like, he was prospect through and through. Now he's still kind of there, but he's transitioning more towards player. I think by the time, this time next year, I think we're going to be seeing like really like the player that Chris Washington will be. And I think that's going to be something special to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Your next guy you have on the list is a guy that I've known pretty well for the last couple of years, a guy named Junior County out of Utah. Now at Utah Prep, it used to be Real Salt Lake. Played for a terrific coach in David Evans, and they've got a new program over there, a new coaching staff. I think Junior County, and I'm really glad to see that you mentioned him on there, because I've always thought that he was a guy, kind of what we've been talking about with Chris Washington, who was definitely a prospect, and now is he a player. He had a really good season with the Utah Prospects, really one of the best underclassmen teams in the country. What did you see from him out there in North Carolina that made him stand out to you as a guy that could be a high-level prospect?
Man, he looks like a player to me. Like, he looks like I didn't see him. This is my first time seeing him, so like I didn't see the prospect part, but he looks like a player to me. Like, he looks like a 6'4" combo guard that's athletic. Yeah. He can shoot it. He just really knows how to play the game. Like, he opened the day he opened the first time, my first viewing of him, with this like super dunk in transition, followed that up with back-to-back threes. And then throughout the rest of the weekend, he kept playing in a time slot that allowed me to watch him multiple times. It was just like, okay, there's only a finite amount of teams playing at that point in time. So I was able to really watch Junior County a lot. And I just kept being like, yep, like this guy. Yep, like this guy. Yep, like this guy. Every time I saw him, I found something else that I loved about his game. And like, yeah, I mean, I found out that he had, a couple of the West Coast high majors already kicking the tires on him. And I was like, man, this guy's recruitment's going to be something to watch this time next year after 2026, he can get contacted. And moving forward, I think he has 5-star potential at the combo guard spot in that class.
He and JJ Mandiquit are going to be a really fun backcourt this year at Utah Prep. Really excited to see how those guys move forward.
Utah Prep had a bunch of guys there, so I think, and they're obviously they're a bunch of young guys, so that's going to be a program to keep watching.
Yep. I mean, like I've always said, man, I'm an Idaho guy. I'm a Utah basketball guy. That whole I-15 corridor, I'm really excited to see all that basketball kind of come through. So, all right, those are the guys that maybe weren't the 5 best guys or best performers is what I should say, but 5 guys that could be a 5-star top 25 player in the class of 2026. So it's kind of fun to see those guys kind of play themselves into that conversation, or continue that conversation, if you will. Let's talk about the 2026 overall, and the list that you kind of sent over to me. Are these your top overall performers for the 2026 class?
For the most part, yeah, I would say these are guys that were like at least very notable, Okay. Like, yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, there's hundreds of players. So like doing this kind of exercise is like, obviously some players are going to be forgotten, or just, some players I didn't even get to see. So it's just like, yeah, these are some notable names from the day. All
right, well, let's play a little game of prospect tennis, if you will, or top performer tennis. Okay. I serve the name up, and you serve it back to me with what you liked about him. Okay, let's start with Jacob Lanier out of the 2026 class.
Man, this guy's, he already has Big 12 interest, Big 12 offers, and he plays like it. Like, he's, athletic, he can shoot it. He's big guard, combo wing, something.
Old Big 12 or new Big 12? That's the question.
Classic Big 12. Like, he had, like Texas Tech was one of them. Maybe like Texas might have been in there. Like a bunch of schools from that.
They're not Big 12 anymore. They're not Big 12 anymore.
Oh, wait. Well, I know Texas Tech was in there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, like that area.
Sure.
So I guess new Big 12 or old Big 12, whatever. He's got classic Big 12 area schools. How about that?
Fair.
That are interested. I believe Oklahoma was in there, but he's a guy that's going to track to be, elite high major. Like, he's got the early offers. He plays the part. He looks the part. He's a guy that was one of those guys where, one of the parents was like, hey, you should watch him. And I watched him, and I was like, yep, you were right. You were right, parent. This is a perfect guy for me to watch. He really closed Saturday on a high note for me. I really liked watching him play.
Where's he from?
He's from the Oklahoma, Texas area, Arkansas, maybe, like somewhere in that general region. I don't remember exactly, but in that general kind of classic Big 12 region. That's why, a lot of the schools probably were like very familiar with his game, and he's very worthy of all those kind of accolades so far.
I love your note here. So I'm actually going to use your note, and you tell me the player. You just have massive human.
Oh, that's Symon Ghai. He is like, he was listed as 7'3". I don't know if he's actually 7'3", but he's plus 7 foot. He's 7'1", maybe. He is humongous, man. This guy is like, he looks the part of a 7-footer, and he's, got a pretty nice physical build to him. He looks like he can be, he's still raw. He's still kind of figuring it out, but like, just based on that size, based on his, pretty solid mobility, he projects to be another guy that could be in a 5-star discussion at some point. At the very least, he's going to be a top 50 rankable kind of guy when it's all said and done. He is huge.
I can only imagine that setting with this many. I think what you said, there's over 400 campers, both boys and girls, 26 and 27. So we're talking about guys, when you think about seniors and juniors, bigger kids, right? This is all still guys that are still waiting on big growth spurts, or if they are tall, they're still pretty gangly. So I imagine a guy like Symon Ghai probably stood out like a sore thumb, even more so amongst all these young players.
I saw, like, when I first got there, they were on Saturday, they had like they were huddling before they were going off to drills or something like that. And I saw just a guy kind of towering over the pack. And I mean, keep in mind, going into this event, I have no idea who's who. Like, honestly, like, I don't know anything. I still don't know anything about 2027. And I watched a bunch of their players. And 2026 is a really kind of an event that helps me establish who's who. So I didn't know that there was a 7'3" guy there. So I was like, oh, someone's standing on a chair watching like the speaker speak or whatever. Like he was that tall where he kind of stood a little bit over everybody else. I was like, oh, that guy must be standing on a chair. No, he wasn't. He's just that big.
It's a big giant human.
Yeah,
big giant human. Your next guy, point guards, tons of speed. Is it Deron or Darren Rippey?
I believe Deron Rippey.
Okay, there you
go. Good gracious, man. This guy's quick. Like, he plays like, I believe, like, this is like a perfect way to describe his game. I believe that St. John's is an early offer, and he plays like a Rick Pitino point guard. He's a little bit on the smaller side, like 5'11" or so. But good gracious, man, if that guy ends up going to St. John's with Rick Pitino, that's a match made in heaven. He's so quick. He's able to kind of get wherever he wants. He's got a nice burst of athleticism. He's really impressive. He's going to be able to do a lot in his career.
Well, Rick Pitino's done great with small guards, right?
I know that's exactly like Smith, when I heard that St. John's was in the potential, I was like, yep, that's perfect. Yeah, that could be a guy that, like, when it's all said and done, that we bump up in ranking because of his fit in college.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
If that's where he goes, yeah.
Exactly.
Where's he from? Northeast? He's a Northeastern player?
Yeah, he's a Northeast guy. Yeah.
Got it. Well, stay in the Northeast. Jeremy Thomas out of up in New York. What do you like about him?
Oh, my God. I believe I misspelled it. I think autocorrect got me. It's Jermel Thomas. And I noticing that autocorrect got me. But he plays with New Heights Lightning. He's a point guard. That should be enough.
That's it. Yeah. That's your note. Yeah.
New Heights Lightning, point guard. He has New York swag. Like, he's got another guy with a really good burst of speed that can get to the basket. He's just a walking paint touch. Like, if you need a guy to get into the paint, make a play, give the ball to Jermel Thomas. I believe his name is Magic Mel on Twitter, and that's kind of how he played. Like, he had a little bit of a magician's swag with the ball. He was able to get by his guy, get to the rim, get into the paint, dish the ball, score the ball. He was a really high-level defender too. So I think if we're looking for the New Heights Lightning point guard factory to continue, you got Jermel Thomas in 2026.
Magic Mel, like, I feel like anytime I hear a kid with a great like social media handle, I'm like, gosh, like, we both have like pretty good playable last names, Young and Tech. We're like, you could be like the Tech Manual.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that's pretty good off the fly. Tech man.
Yeah, it's no Magic Mel, but there's something.
Magic Mel's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one. I as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, cool. That's like, it added to the level of swag he brought to the court with his Twitter handle.
Well, it sounds like maybe Rick Pitino might be recruiting him as well when it's all said.
Man, if he can get both those guys, that's the Peyton Siva Russ Smith right there.
Dangerous. Danny Miller's your next guy on your list. What did you like about him?
Oh, man, this has been one of my, like I said, 2026 class, don't know too much about, but Dhani Miller is a guy that played with the Georgia Stars. He plays at Montverde. So just, whenever I've gone to Dhani Miller. Whenever I've gone to an EYBL event, obviously being a Georgia guy, I'm going to prioritize the Georgia Stars for 2026 just because I can figure out who's in my backyard in the young groups. And Dhani Miller's a guy that's always impressed. He just knows how to play. Like, he's a point guard, bigger point guard. Doesn't do anything overwhelmingly flashy, but he just knows how to play the game, man. He can get guys to where he needs to go, plays with really good pace, good scorer, good distributor. Like, him and Caden Allen on that Georgia Stars team at Peach Jam were one of the best backcourts. They kind of both blew up that weekend, and like, for good reason. Caden Allen was there, but he was injured, but Dhani Miller kind of carried the Montverde / Georgia Stars flag on his back proudly. He looked really, really good again. And he's a guy that, like I said, I've seen a lot at this point. He's stacking weekends, and he just looks like one of those guys that's going to be in the top point guard discussion for the 2026 class.
I don't know if you've heard that. If you're a prospect or coach, stacking weekends is such an important thing, I think, at this stage for young guys, is to keep putting them together.
Right. And it's good for 27s and 26s and, like, you know, all the younger guys to do that, because it just kind of, when I go to CP3 camp, I'll be like, oh, I know Dhani Miller. I'm going to go, you know, I don't know who half these guys are, but I know who he is. So I'm going to go watch his game, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, another guy that you're familiar with is Brisun Hammermeister, also the best name of the camp, without a doubt. A guy that we've seen before. Again, going back to Bama Jam, where Bama Jam 2023 was loaded. I mean, really was.
He and Sam Funches played on the same team. But he was
what
really
did Brisun, what did he do at this camp that you liked?
Kind of continued what I saw from him at Bama Jam, and like what was really valuable is just like him showing that what I saw out of him, you know, a couple months ago was actually who he is. Because these are my only 2 times seeing him.
Sure.
Athletic, 6'7" wing, makes plays above the rim, can do a little bit of creation with the ball in his hands, at least from an attacking standpoint. You can drive baseline, get up, throw down a nice little highlight reel dunk. He could also stretch the floor as a shooter. So he kind of checks a lot of boxes early on in his career. And like, I saw this at Bama Jam. Garrett Tucker saw it at Bama Jam. And what he did at CP3 camp was just kind of confirm that that's who he is as a player. And this, I believe he's playing with the Villages now. I believe he transferred there from where, I don't know. But I believe he's at the Villages now. So him and Chris Washington will be like a really interesting 6'7" versatile wing-ish kind of backcourt, I guess you can call it.
Sure.
But whatever they are, that's going to be an interesting duo to watch.
Well, I mean, we've seen the Villages have success with long guys that can shoot. Sam Walters, obviously, now is an Alabama guy that I freaking love. I think he could be a really high-level prospect down the road. So it's been
I think you could kind of put Brisun Hammermeister in that kind of range. He's not as big as Sam Walters, but Sam's pretty big dude. But Brisun is a legit 6'7", so he's not a small dude by any means.
I like it. Well, you can find out more of Josh's top 2026 players and his notes from the CP3 camp. Make sure you stay logged on to hoopsing.com this week. Plenty more to come on the site. Really, this whole week, we've got tons of stuff to talk about from that camp. So go by and check that out. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Like this video, subscribe to our channel. If you're on Twitter watching this, hit that or not Twitter, X, whatever. Again, hit the retweet.
Hit the retweet button, not repost, retweet.
Whatever it is, smash the button that shares it with all your people. That's the phrase that I'm trying to find here.
Button that looks like a recycling button, kind of.
That's it. Hit that button for us. Do us that favor if you can. If you're not already following us, which that's on you, but if you aren't, go ahead and hit that button and follow us there as well. So, and follow us on Instagram too at Hoopscene. So we got tons of stuff.
And on TikTok. I don't know what the TikTok handle is, but we're trying to diversify.
We are. Just go search Hoopscene. You'll find us. I think we've got an underscore because somebody probably took Hoopscene because we've never been on TikTok. But nevertheless, let's pivot and talk about 2027. Again, it's a class, and as I'm kind of putting our invites out for our 2027 kids for the Elite Preview, which is coming this week. Our first invites are happening today.
The preview is not coming this week. The 2027 invites are coming this week.
Correct. The Elite Preview invites are coming this week. So it's a class that we're not super familiar with just because we haven't seen them. And that's part of the game. Like, we're in no rush to go watch guys because college recruiters are all about seniors right now, more than ever. And so that's really where our focus goes. So this is our first chance to really kind of see 27 with a real pointed vision for this class. And that's why I think we like this camp, is it does give us a chance to see some new players, get a baseline set for a lot of young guys that we don't have already. So it'll be fun to kind of go through. Let's talk about just a handful of guys that you saw from 2027 over the weekend in Winston-Salem at the CP3 Rising Stars camp. Josh, Tyler Sutton is a guy that I know that you had some positive feedback on.
Oh man, he might have been my favorite 2027 to watch there. Kind of like I said with the other 2 point guards from the 2026 class, he was really shifty. He was really able to kind of get by his man, but he had a really nice step back move that was able to create separation. His 3-ball wasn't falling that much, but he was really able to get to the rim with athletic finishes, really creative finishes as well. Really good distributor, kind of plays with, I'm going to use the word again, kind of plays with this ultimate swag. Like, he knows he's good, and he just brought it to the floor. And he could, I don't know. My first time seeing him, he could have just been like a good camp player, but man, he was really impressive throughout the weekend. He was really able to shake defenders and just create highlights at the rim. Like, he's a really good player. Looks like a point guard to track in 2027.
I like it. Joshua Leonard is a guy. Listen, if we've known anything from the state of South Carolina over the last, I don't know, forever, is that they're going to have some real physical dudes coming out of the Palmetto State. And it looks like Joshua Leonard is a player that certainly checked that box for you over the weekend too.
Yeah, this is going to be a name to watch in the South, the entire region for 2027. Big, I don't know, 6'6", kind of wing forward. He already has a physical build. He already has long arms, super athletic. Good gracious, man. This guy was throwing down dunks that were just like, if you were a video person there, you had enough highlight. You were good on highlights when it comes to Josh Leonard. But he also, usually at this stage, if you're, built like him and as physical as he is and as athletic as he is, you don't really have the ball skills yet. But he does have a little bit of ball skills as, he can take the ball end to end, really create as far as driving to the basket, really good decision maker when it comes to, instead of, forcing a shot, he can just kick it to the open guy out in the wing or something like that. So he's a good decision maker. He's able to create a little bit with the ball in his hands. I think he's going to be a guy that kind of starts to pop on a national scale at some point sooner than later, just because of all of his physical tools. And he's going to be a guy that draws comparisons to several of the big name South Carolina prospects of the last decade or so. I think, kind of where I'm going with those kind of players. I'm not going to throw him out yet because he's 27 kid, but any of the major South Carolina forwards that you can think of that were really highly regarded, I think Josh Leonard has a lot of those same attributes as at a young age.
Fair enough. I'm sure that comp will come to light with a name sooner than later for a guy like Josh Leonard.
There's probably a couple names that could fit that, honestly. So we'll kind of let that play out as it will.
Fair enough. Let's keep it moving. Virginia, obviously, the DMV. I think the next couple of guys will bring this area, and that's not a surprise to me. It's one of my most favorite areas in the country when it comes to prospects. We'll start with Troy Tomlin. What did you like about him?
He was an athletic wing who was able to hit shots like that. Enough said. Like, he created some really great highlights at the rim. He was on the same team as Tyler Sutton, and Josh Leonard might have been on that team too, or if not, the first game I saw, they played against each other. But Sutton and Tomlin were definitely on the same team, and they really served up as a great combo. Sutton really found him a lot at the rim for highlight reel dunks, or found him on the wing, able to shoot the ball, knock down some shots. So I think just athletic, shoots the ball, wing, boom. That's enough said. That's going to be enough to get you in the door at a lot of places.
That's the trifecta of basketball traits that we're always looking for.
Right, like right now, especially like athletic wings that can shoot. Yeah, that's the most in-demand kind of player out there. So
I like it. All right, last guy on our list here. You're gonna have to help me out with the last name. Baba's the first name. Last name is what?
So Baba or Babatunde Oladotun, something along those lines. He is apparently, and I don't. Like I said, I don't know anything about the 2027 class, but apparently he's already a guy that kind of had a little bit of a reputation, and it's not hard to see why. He's pretty big, 6'7" or so, with the kind of Kevin Durant-ish kind of build, skinny, long. Looks like he's got some more growing to do. He's also very skilled in that same way. In the notes, I kind of wrote Kevin Durant light because he does play like that. Like, he can shoot the ball. He can do a little bit of creation off the dribble from the wing. And he looks like he's going to be a guy that, maybe gets to that 6'9"-ish wing kind of role. So I could see the comparisons. That was a name that was thrown out to me throughout the camp. It was like, oh, he kind of looks and plays like Kevin Durant. I could see it. A guy that he kind of looked like and reminded me of was Nas Cunningham a bit, kind of that same kind of build. So if you want another comparison, I would say that's an apt one at this early stage. But he's going to be a guy definitely to track. I know it's not a surprise that he's already building a name in the 2027 class because he looks like a guy that should be.
Good company. That's good company.
Yeah, for sure. And DMV kid. So obviously the Kevin Durant comparisons are going to be thrown out there. So
if you're watching this and if you were at the CP3 Rising Stars camp and you've got some 2027 guys that we should know about, leave us a comment below. Again, if you're watching this on X or Twitter, let us know, tweet us or whatever you want to call it, write at us. Let us know some players we need to keep our eyes on here in the Scholastic season moving forward. Drop that in the comments. Or if you're on YouTube, drop that in the comments below on these 2027 guys. So that's a pretty good quick rundown of 4 guys that Josh Tec like there in Winston-Salem. Josh, let's pivot a little bit to the class of 20 or to the Georgia guys. Let's pivot to the Georgia guys that were at the CP3 camp. Let's talk about some of the players that you like there in that setting. Give me some guys that really stood out to you there.
Yeah. So early on in the weekend, I went to go see Amare James play with Jalen Montonati. They were on the same team. And Amare James is, at Wheeler High School. He's a wing that really just impressed as a rebounder and a defender, honestly. Like if we're talking about like, oh man, somebody could impress as doing something other than jacking up shots at a camp. Amare James did that. Like he was one of the most tenacious rebounders I saw. Like he picked up a lot of 50-50 balls and he really gave an effort on defense. He was taking charges in a camp setting. So that's always a good sign. And like I said, like scoring the ball was secondary, for me with him in regards to watching him, because I was really impressed with all the other things he did on the floor. So I think that he's a guy that, we've seen a lot of. We're going to continue to see a lot of. He's right here in my backyard at Wheeler High School. So it was just really good to kind of catch up with him on this, another chapter in his, developing story.
Yeah, I like seeing guys that we're familiar with in a different setting against different players, and it gives you a chance to really, I think, get a really good evaluation and go, okay, maybe he's better than maybe I realized, because you see him so often that you become really familiar with the things that they do really well and the things that they can get better at. So it's good to see him in that setting for sure. Give me another guy from Georgia that you like from this weekend.
Charlie Gersmehl. He's another guy that we've seen a ton of. He's been at Next Gen Jams. He was at our Next Gen preview camp. And he's like, if you go back to the archives, you'll see him he's been a standout at a bunch of our middle school events. So this isn't like any kind of new development, but it was a new development in the sense that I've never seen him go up against like elite players in a class like he did at this camp. And he held his own. He's shined throughout whenever I got to see him, at least. Really fundamental player, not going to do anything flashy. He's not going to be like one of the aforementioned point guards that's going to wow you with this poppy kind of flashy kind of play. But he's a forward that can play inside and out, really fundamental around the basket, really sound defender. Like he doesn't really get scored on that much. If he does, it's just by chance. And he can step out. He can play on the wing. He can play around the basket, like I said. So he's really versatile at this stage. He's going to Gainesville now with Charlemagne Gibbons and our guy Jamie Brooks up there now. So he's going to be transferring to a program that's building, and their coaching staff, one that we trust. So I think his development is going to continue. And this is a really good kind of comparison to see where he's at this stage in his career. I think I was really impressed with what I got to see out of him in comparison to what I got to see at our previous middle school events and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, again, stacking up good moments, right? And
exactly. He's just another notch in his chapters,
I like it. Let's wrap things up here with the Georgia guys. Tobias Brinkley out of the 2026 class from Peach State. Tell us about him. What did you like?
Yeah, so he was another guy that kind of jumped off the page. Is like he's got a very developable frame. He looks like he looks the part, and he looks like he can continue to grow into that part. And he's another guy that just kind of knows how to play, right? He didn't do anything that like wowed like a lot of these other guys did, but he was just kind of very sound throughout the entire weekend, and that proved when he made the top 20 All-Star game. Goes to St. Pius, so you know that he's going to be coached well. He's going to be developed well. I really trust in that, and that kind of aided into this. Like you could see a good foundational understanding of the game, a good foundational like physical set of tools, and then you add into the fact that he goes to St. Pius. That development is going to be taken seriously there. That really did a lot as far as me being excited about his future. There we go. I stumbled upon my words there. But yeah, I was just really, he was a guy that didn't pop off the page a ton, but I was really excited about what he can be in the future.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Aaron Parr's going to coach you, you're going to leave high school a much better basketball player.
Exactly. That was one of those, like, we always talk about, like, where you go to college really kind of can help your ranking. Well, in this case, it was where you go to high school. It's going to help your, me being excited about you as a player.
No question. This is a good little roundup of Georgia guys from the CP3 Rising Stars camp. Certainly plenty of guys from the state of Georgia in these 26 and 27 classes that we're going to keep our eyes on in the scholastic year coming up as well. So Josh, this was good stuff. A couple programming notes. We're going to do our Fast Break Friday rundown, probably more midweek, and we'll drop that here on X, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all the
Should be a big week for visits and all of that stuff.
It is. Yeah, it is. I'm taking an official visit to Pebble Beach myself this coming weekend, so I'm very excited about that. Hashtag blessed.
Yeah, I'm assuming you'll probably end up committing there.
Not committed. Hashtag not committed. No.
Commitment watch right there. Justin Young moving to Pebble Beach.
Yeah. Keep your eyes on it, but not committed. Keeping my options open. So waiting on that good NIL deal. I'm taking my little boy with me, so that's really what I'm trying to do is get him a deal. Cute little guy. So maybe we can get some good hookups there for the Pebble Beach trip coming up this week. Also coming up this week, if things happen, usually we try to do a commitment catch up. Pretty quiet week, which is not surprising. Yeah. I think once we get into these visits, we'll see a lot of things kind of pop off here moving forward. So if there's a number of notable commitments, we had one or two, not enough to do a standalone, but if there is, we'll do one coming up as well here. And again, some more programming because it's Labor Day, because I'll be gone until Tuesday. We probably won't have another fast break until midweek next week, actually, here on the show. So plenty of stuff to do. So welcome back to watching us on X and Twitter. And again, if you stay watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you being one of the subscribers there. Tell a friend about it. Make sure you hit that button for us. Until next time, I'm Justin Young. He's Josh Tec. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on hoopscene.com moving forward. Take care, Josh.
See ya.